I was 10 credits short of graduating and getting my degree from the university. When I was able, fortunately enough, to get a job, again, my community involvement with that same organization, Activos Mexicanos. So I started to volunteer for them, and eventually I got hired by them, and I became a counselor working for Activos Mexicanos, which had a facility on the south side of Seattle. I think on Empire Way South, and I was working over there. I thought, gosh, I'm so close to graduating, but I got a job, and work ethics for Latinos is really big. So you get a job, you go to work, and I did. So I left school. I left the university, and I'm a young guy, so I'll go back. I'll get my degree, no problem. I'm only 10 credits short. So I started working for Activos, and I went from this part-time or volunteer, from volunteer to part-time, from a part-time to full-time as an employee working for this company. The director, named Alberto Del Valle, had misused federal dollars. It was an OEO funded, or now it's called CAC, Community Action Agency. In those days it was the Office of Economic Opportunity. Under the president was, I think, Richard Nixon at the time. And so it had more of a conservative swing to it. Somehow, somewhere, there was annual audits that took place. And one of those audits, they had learned and followed the funds that were used for emergency services for that program. And Del Valle was able to do things with some of the people that would come in who were looking for work, didn't have a place to stay, needed food. So he would take them to the bank, and he said, no problem, I'll just take you over there. And he goes, I'll tell you what, let me help you out. You need housing, you need to eat. Let me help you out. Let me go get some money. So he'd go in and literally take out $100 for them, and they'd give him this money and say, here, or 200 or whatever he was paying this family. He'd say, here, this is for you, and you pay it back when you can. No strings attached, right? Everything's cool, and you go like, wow. And I was looking at this guy, and I said, what a cool guy. Well, he'd also make sure when he took some money out, he took out enough for himself, and he put some in his pocket. Well, it's Alberto's money. Well, we didn't know it at the time, but it was not his money. It was funds from this emergency funds. Eventually, when the audit came through and they found out that Del Valle was pocketing part of these dollars for his own personal use, the Mexicanos that he was helping were honest people. They may or may not have been legal citizens, but they were honest people. And what they would do is they would work, and they would come back and pay him back the money he owed him. So he would thank him and put the money in his pocket again. So I guess you would call that laundering. And he was laundering his dollars, and these poor people were being, I guess, misused. They didn't know it. We on staff didn't know it, but Alberto had a plan. Well, the auditors found out, and they knew it. That led to a grand jury investigation. That led to court action. That led to his being found guilty and being imprisoned. Now for him, jail was not a state prison. They put him in the county jail. He was there for 1 year. So he was found guilty and was literally a sheriff and a team of officers came in to the agency, cuffed him, arrested him, and off to jail he goes. So the whole organization and us as employees were all in panic. We'd lost our director, and I mean, he was arrested and we lost. So the board of directors had an emergency meeting they held that night. All the staff were invited to be there, and they talked to us and they said, we got to do something on an immediate basis. We have to have a director. So we need someone, and they looked to the staff and said, you guys amongst yourselves decide. Appoint, pick, and identify a body that can be our temporary director until we hire a new director. So the staff all talked about it, they all figured it out, they all voted, and at 22 years old, I became this new director. Well, it's a compliment on one side. It's a shock. It's an amazing thing. But I'm now this director. So I'm going, wow. So within 2 weeks, I haven't made my first payroll yet. This same sheriff comes over and serves me with a notice. I'm going like, I haven't even made my first payroll and I'm getting a notice. I'm thinking I'm getting arrested. I'm going to jail. Turns out that they needed the records of the agency to be used at this court case. And since I was the director, they were giving the papers to me. I was being identified as the official representative of the organization. They weren't giving it to the chair of the board or anything. They gave it to the director. So, here this elderly man is up talking to me, and he says, "Are you sure you're the director?" I'm, "Yeah." And the guy, "I can't believe it." I'm going, "Yeah, I'm the guy." And he says, "Well, you got to show me ID. I just can't believe it's you." So, yeah, I take out my driver's license. The guy says, "I'll be darned. Yeah, you're Tomas Sandoval. You're the director." Yeah. He goes, "Great. Well, then this what do you call it, petition or whatever they give it, this is for you." And he gives it to me. I go, "What's this?" The guy goes, "You're summoned to court." And I went, "What?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm a sheriff." And I'm going, "Oh, man." And he goes, "Okay." And he goes, "We don't want you. We want these records." I said, "Got it." And he says, "If anything's missing, anything's taken, anything's not available to us," he goes, "it's on you." And I'm going, "What?" And I'm going, "Okay." And he goes, "So you protect these records?" And I'm going, "Got it." Well, anybody could walk into any one of the offices and open drawers and pull out files and stuff. So I was going, now it's me on the line. So I literally went and I had some duct tape, and I duct taped each one of the drawers, went and got a hand cart, and I had bought my new first vehicle, a Datsun pickup. And so I literally took the cart out, totally filled with all the stuff, and I took it out and put it in the truck. So it's in the back of the truck. I took that sucker home. It was under lock and key at home, and I had duct taped it. Nobody touched anything in that file cabinet. They didn't even touch the file cabinet. I mean, it was totally safe. So on the day I was supposed to take it to court, I loaded it up in a truck, took it to court, opened it over there, and I said, "I don't even know what's in it. I've never looked in it. Everything's there." And they said, "Okay." And they said, "Well, it's duct tape." And I said, "Yeah, I duct taped it." When the guy told me, he stood there and watched me duct tape it. I said, "It's taped up. I've never even opened it. I don't know what's in it." So have at it, guys. They literally opened it up, looked inside and said, "Yeah, here's the records." And so payroll records and whatever was there. And they looked at all that. And they went back and further took more leave to study that, and eventually found Alberto guilty of misuse of federal funds, and he served time. And within 6 months, I became from the acting director to the permanent director. I worked from 1972 through December 24th, 1974. So I worked those years as the director of this agency. At that time, Activos and Sarah Jobs for Progress were the two leading Latino organizations. Activos served about 5,000 people per year. Sarah Jobs for Progress served about maybe a couple of hundred, maybe 200, 250, something like that. Central became the brand new agency that just started, and they were in this school building. They had no dollars or anything like that, and our organization was asked, could we lobby in their behalf? Yeah. The city was looking to have a $40,000 grant to give to folks, and Central wanted those dollars. That would initiate their becoming a community-based organization. We weren't applying. We weren't competing for those dollars. We said, yeah, we don't want to do that. My board asked, could I go over and lobby in their behalf? And I said, sure. So I did. And I knew the city council members well enough and the county commissioner guys well enough so I could make sure that we were in behalf of Central pushing for them to get those dollars. They were fortunate. They got the grant. And I'm sure I was one of several people in their behalf, working to do that. Central took that as an inappropriate thing, I guess. They didn't like the idea that we're, I guess, trying to help them. The city council and the county commissioners kept asking us, would we apply for that grant? And I kept saying no. I said, but that doesn't mean we won't apply for other grants. We won't be competitive for other things. We're just not applying for that grant. We don't want to do that. So they went, okay, and we were good enough in our lobbying efforts that they got their grant. But we were also good enough that we were presenting ourselves well enough that we were able to get more grants for our organization. That's cool. Centro wanted to become the sole and only Latino organization in the Seattle area. So they were really trying to get us to become part of their organization. We were paying $1 a year for rent and utility free from King County, and the building we were in was all furbished and all set up, and so we had this building, and they literally moved us from one building to an even better building right next door. And again, our rent was $1 a year, and our lease a year was 99 years. So, I mean, how do you beat that? That meant that the dollars that we would normally spend on rent or utilities, we were spending on services. So, yes, we could serve 5,000 people on transportation, employment programs, translations, whatever the services. We had a youth group. We worked with prisoners and so forth, because we got involved with the prison once and the jails once we learned about the Valle scenario. We learned enough about that. We got involved with those groups as well. So we did a number of things as community folks, but we were serving lots of people, and we were using the benefit of using those transportation or those rent dollars and utility dollars for some of that services. Centro looked at us as an organization that could pay rent, and that would help them to continue on. And we kept saying, if you can beat this, we'll join you, or we'll pay the $1 a year to you guys. That's not a big deal. But we're not going to take, $4,000 or $5,000 a year in rent and put it into you guys. We're going to spend it on services for persons, for family members, and community people. Well, that didn't go over very well. So one thing led to another, and eventually they were calling us every name in the book. So my name is not Vendido. I wasn't Tio Tomas, Tio Taco, and whatever. And I'm brazen enough that I'll stand up and say my 2 cents. It turned out that eventually one of the days we were having a staff training, and we arranged it so the staff would all go to one of our employees' home, because he had a nice home for that, and they were being trained. So myself and my bookkeeper and one high school kid who was an after student kind of employee, worked for us for a couple hours a day, were the people that were in the building while everybody else in training. And 4 persons from Centro came over. There was their one board member, their executive director, their assistant director, and 1 staff person. And the 4 board members came over to talk to me. Well, I brought them into the office, sat them down. I had donuts and coffee, and so have donuts, have coffee. They took that as an insult, so they threw the coffee in my face, start throwing donuts at me, start throwing punches and stuff. At 100 pounds, and I'm not Bruce Lee. We didn't do well. So I was moving and ducking, and I was very agile and quick, but I wasn't quick enough to block this punch and block this punch. I'd block this one, and pap, I'd get hit on this side, and that'd roll me across my desk, and somebody grab me on the other side, and pam, I'd get knocked over the other way, and I was getting thumped. One of the things I was always, under this pressure, I didn't lose my cool. And now, being the little guy in high school, I had my nose bent a bunch of times. Um, so this wasn't a whole lot different. These were just community guys that I knew. Um, so the staff, realizing and hearing all the noise, they called the police. So two motorcycle police officers came over. And they literally wanted to come over and arrest these guys. And the staff, one of the staff persons came over and told me, they said to us, the police have been called, they're coming in. And so these four guys, knowing that was happening, told me, get rid of them. And I kept saying, if you're willing to talk, if you're willing to sit down, we'll do this. Otherwise, and they said, yeah, we'll do that. Okay. All right, I'll get rid of them. So when the cops showed up, I required that the police officers sign in on our guest book. Everybody who came to our organization, I had them sign in. That was one of our rules. And the officers, they weren't signing in. They were here to rescue this little twerp. And since I was being ornery with them, they finally said, to heck with it. You know, get your tail beat. They left. I said, cool. All right. I'll go back, talk to these guys. We'll sit down now. So I got back there and they said, cops gone? I went, yeah, I got rid of them. So now sit down and talk. Punching started again. I was going, oh, Tomas, you idiot. You know, so we were back to that again. So I got bounced off enough walls and, you know, got pounded into my desk. I had a steel case, you know, those little style desk with a glass sheet on it with a bunch of papers underneath it, you know. And one of the guys grabbed me and bounced me off the desk enough until the glass was cracking. And I could hear when it was going, I was going, oh, this is not good. And he was yelling as loud as he could in my face. And he was screaming, he'd pull me up and yell in my face. And he'd say, you know, leave town. You guys, you get it, you understand? And he's yelling at me. And I'm going, yeah, the hearing's real good and speak English real well. I know what you're saying. You know, I wasn't afraid. I just understood that's what they were doing. And the guy says, do you get it? You're going to leave town? And I said, yeah, let me see. Well, in New Mexico is cool. Family's from there. And, you know, but I grew up in the Tri-Cities. And, you know, I still going to the U. And, you know, I don't think so. No, thank you. Thanks for the offer, but no thanks. So I scream and yell some more and pound me in the desk some more. And they say, you leaving? No, I decided not to. And so the frustrating part is they couldn't get me to say I was going to leave. So there was a guy that we had sponsored a number of years ago named Gilbert Alanis. And Gilbert Alanis was a karate guy. And he was competitive. And he would literally be in the karate matches and fights. So he would do that stuff you'd see on Bruce Lee movies when these guys would have these you know, convention moments or whatever, tournaments or whatever. And he would be one of those guys, and he was really good at it. We had hired him to be at some of the parks. He would go to White Center, I think that we had a park over there, and he would go over there, and he would teach karate to the kids. And so it was our way of keeping some of the kids out of doing some crazy stuff on the street. Well, Alanis was coming into the building, and the staff told him that, you know, I was down there getting my tail beat. So he came over and went through his sounds and katas and all that stuff. And he literally freaked out these guys when they realized this competitive karate guy was coming. And we had the second floor, so it was a decent drop if you wanted to jump out a window. And these four guys did. That's what they did. They dived out of the window and got on the building and took off. So to this day, and I still know Gilbert well, and he still recalls how he rescued me from these four guys, and he did. And that's the sad part about it is they thought that that was the only way to communicate, that to intimidate and do that stuff was the way to go. My choices then became, I had 18 staff, multi-million-dollar program. How do you continue to run your program under this kind of scenario? So the way to address it is, I said, all right, I'll go file a police report. I'll do what I needed to do. So I went to the police, and of course, that immediately got me to the prosecuting attorney, and they were all excited because here they had some people from the Centro, which were a very well-known group, and they really wanted to get those guys in jail. And I was going, wasn't quite wanting to do that, but that's where it was going to flow. So we ended up going to court. So I became the official witness for the prosecution. I guess legally they call you a complaining witness for the prosecution. And the court case is going on, and they had attorneys for the defense. Their defense was they were nonviolent because they were supporting the Great Boycott, and Cesar Chavez was a nonviolent guy. So that was their kind of position. And the judge wasn't really buying much of that. Every time they were being questioned, either by their own attorneys or by the prosecution, they would always do things starting off in Spanish, and they would switch over to English. And accents become really unique. Oh man, I forgot you were talking about it that way. I mean, I didn't understand. And oddly enough, one of the guys was an English professor at the University of Washington. That's what he was doing. The other guys all had time both at college and stuff like that. So they, it was the game. It was the game. And they brought a lot of their friends and folks to rally in their behalf. And so every time they would talk, they would always say things a little bit in Spanish. And so I became, for use of bad terms, I was the cabroncito, I was the tío taco, I was the vendido, and then we'd do all this stuff. Then, oops, I'm sorry, let me say it in English, I forget, And then they would answer whatever the question was. Yes, I was driving by that day or whatever. And then they would all of a sudden, but they would always toss in this other stuff. And being the witness for the prosecution, I was, the only people I had there was my wife and my parents. So I was pretty miffed that these guys were doing what they were doing. And the judge, as you say in Spanish, bien mono, okay, take a note here and there. And I was going, oh man, so all this stuff was not looking good. So they finally got me up there, and they asked me my 2 cents worth. So I went through the process, and they kept saying it was a personal thing against me and this other guy, their director. No, I don't hate the guy, and I didn't like him. I just don't want him beating the hell out of me. And they were going like, oh, well. And they said, well, yeah, but you're suing him. And I said, no, I'm not an attorney. I don't have a bar degree, But as far as I understand, I'm a complaining witness for the prosecution, and it's the prosecution that's the actually aggrieved party, and they're the ones doing this. And the judge going, well, that's right. I said, so I'm just here, giving my piece. So they went through the whole process, and they realized that, things look kind of awkward. Now, I was in a two-piece suit. Now, at 100 pounds, you don't have a lot of choices of what you wear. So I went to Penny's and I got this suit. Now, a 36 was the smallest I could get, but it was big for me. Again, I'm the 100-pound kid. So when I sat on the witness stand, I had to sit up tall and kind of to make sure the judge could see me. And the suit looked like a sack of spuds, I'm a 100-pound sack and with a 5-pound kid kind of deal. So this judge kept saying, you're the guy? And yeah. So Shaw obviously was shocked that I was the guy that these 4 tough guys were addressing. So I went through the whole thing. So they asked me a ton of questions, and I kept saying, well, they said, well, if it was your choice, what would you do? And of course, the prosecution didn't want me to respond, and I kept saying, well, of course I'll respond. I'll answer any questions you got. And I said, yeah, they should all go to jail for this. One guy, the board member, was on probation, and he just got out of prison. And I said, so yeah, this guy, and even the guy who's the board member who's on probation, that guy, he should go too. And the judge goes, what? So she's going, oh, wait a minute. So she was waking up to all this stuff, and I'm going, okay. So I was going, wow, all right. So they went through their stuff, and I thought, well, I guess I got my 2 cents in. That was my big piece. So when it was over, the judge wanted to make a decision. It wasn't hard, for her to make the decision. And so she got them standing up, and then she had them take off their headbands and their mirrored sunglasses and stand at attention. And I was going, oh, wow, she's beginning to show some moxie. And I was going, because she was real quiet the whole time. And then she reminded these guys as a judge, and in those days, in order to be a judge, you first had to go to school and get your law degree and then pass the bar. And she goes, in order to get your law degree in Washington State, which is where she went, the requirement was that you had to have, in order to get your degree, you also had to have a minor in something. And there was always a language requirement back in those days. Now, God, I didn't know that. And she said, just so you guys know, she said her language degree, her second minor, her minor in law was her degree, her minor was in Spanish. And I went, okay. And she had spent years in Mexico. Now, this lady was a nice, very obviously light-complected white lady, blonde hair. And all of a sudden, she's telling everyone about her background and was going, no wonder they got her as the judge. And I go, okay. And she had understood everything they were saying. And so she took all of her notes, and she was talking about all the maldiciones that they were using, all the cuss words and everything else, and all the comments that they were making. And she just, I guess, let them have enough rope, and they were hanging themselves, and she was taking it all down. And so at the end, she obviously found them guilty, and she wanted full investigations on these guys because there was the potential of one guy going back to prison and some of the other stuff. So she really barked at him, and she got him really serious. And she gave him $5,000 fine or some big fine, and 5 years in jail and prison and all that kind of stuff. And I was going, whoa. I mean, she was really being serious. Then she knocks it all down to 1 year and suspended the fine and knocked it down to 1 year probation if it never happens again. Or, well, that's not a hard decision. So she was going, and they were going, oh yeah, they got it. All right. So that was kind of the deal. So when we got out of it, I obviously won the case, but I was considered the evil guy for either being beat up or whatever. But the oddity was, once they had learned what their scenario was, and the judge was serious about it, I would get phone calls, literally every couple of weeks. Tomas, we're going to this meeting. Are you going to go? Do you mind if we go? And no, that's fine. I didn't know about half of these meetings. Thanks for calling me and telling me, because I'll probably go to that meeting. But if I go, just don't latch on to me. We're cool. Over time, and it does take time, we all became friends, got to know each other, respectability, all that comes with all that stuff.